Sleeping in the middle of the day. What easygoing days you live. You useless woman. That's how my mother-in-law insults me. To her, it seems I'm just a woman being supported by my husband. She doesn't understand the struggles I've endured. And the vast amount of time I've invested. Just 15 minutes. I simply lay down to take a short break and closed my eyes. Which made my mother-in-law furious. I was just trying to take a little break. Don't talk back. You are just a maid here. If you're going to slack off on your housework, get out of this house. My mother-in-law doesn't listen at all. Every day, she disturbs me while I work from home and makes snide remarks. It's unreasonable to expect me to endure this lifestyle any longer. I decided to stand up and said, "Understood. With pleasure. I'll leave, just as you wish, ma'am." I spoke in a flabbergasted tone, and she was stunned, saying, "What?" Ignoring her, I quickly packed my things and prepared to leave the house. As my mother-in-law silently followed, I said, "Oh, what do you think Peter will say when he hears about this? If I tell him what you've done, he'll be furious, won't he? You sure are confident in being loved, despite being a mere maid. I'm looking forward to it." And I left the house. As expected, my husband was furious when he heard my story. The punishment he gave his mother was beyond my imagination. My name is Tracy. I am currently 28 years old. And aside from being a housewife, I work part-time as a cashier at a nearby supermarket. I work from Monday to Friday, from 8 a.m. until noon. I got to know Peter at university through the tennis club, which led to our dating. He treasures me greatly and often praises me, saying things like, "Thank you always. The meals you make are the tastiest in the world. Your outfit today is cute." I love Peter so much that about 4 years into our relationship, he proposed to me, and we got married. We've been living ordinary, happy days. About a year after our marriage, Peter suggested, "Tracy, shouldn't we start thinking about buying our own home?" Indeed, the apartment we currently live in is the same one room we moved into when we were dating. It's far from the bus stop and on the 4th floor without an elevator, which is quite exhausting just to return home. A home of our own. That sounds nice. The 4th floor is tough. And if we continue to live in this apartment, it would be too cramped to raise a child, wouldn't it? Right. It's small and the bus stop is far. Maybe it's time to move? As we talked about moving into our dream home, the conversation about what we wanted in a home expanded, like a laundry room. A spacious garden, wanting at least 2 children's rooms. And we began to finalize the ideal floor plan. Then suddenly Peter said, "You know, Tracy. Actually, my mom is living alone in a big house right now. And it's too big for her to maintain. So she's thinking of selling it. Since there's no place for her to live, she wants to live with us. What do you think?" Peter lost his father to illness 2 years ago. Being an only child, his mother has been living alone. But the house his father built was too large and gradually became financially and physically challenging to maintain. So, that means the 3 of us would live together? You probably hate the idea, right? I know. It seems she's also been looking at apartments. But she hasn't found a good place yet. He said, seeing my reaction and speaking apologetically. It's not that I hate the idea. I always had a good impression of my mother-in-law as a kind and friendly person. But I was worried that living together might be exhausting and could potentially worsen our relationship. However, I couldn't just ignore her with nowhere to live. After a moment of thought, all right then. If that's the case, let's make it a two-family house. To avoid getting on each other's nerves and accumulating stress, let's install utilities on both the first and second floors now. Really? Thank you, Tracy. Mom will be happy too. Yeah. Although we've already decided on a floor plan, let's rethink it. With that, we apologized to the home builder and started planning a new layout that could accommodate my mother-in-law along with my husband and me. Later, my mother-in-law called. Tracy, are you really okay with living together? Yes. It's fine. We've already decided. Let's live happily together, okay? However, I do want us to avoid interfering too much with each other. Like how we do housework, work methods, and so on. That's true. We would just tire each other out. Let's do that. I'm really glad to have such a kind daughter-in-law. Thank you. At that time, I thought choosing to live together was the right decision. Little did I know that I would later realize this choice was a mistake. The house was completed, and after finishing moving in, the three of us decided to have dinner together. At the table, my mother-in-law asked, "By the way, Tracy, what kind of job are you doing now?" "I'm currently working part-time at a nearby supermarket." Huh? Part-time? For a moment, her brows seemed to furrow. "I only work part-time until noon." My mother-in-law responded with a skeptical and a discontented expression. "When I was your age, I was working my fingers to the bone, barely having time to sleep. It's amazing you can afford such a lovely home without working full-time. You really married up, huh?" Her sarcastic comment was unpleasant. But I chose not to retort and instead replied lightly, "Oh, is that so? I guess I'm just lucky." I really should be grateful to Peter. Later, I learned from my husband that his mother had worked as a nurse until retirement, including many night shifts, and it must have been tough for her. Perhaps she was irritated seeing me only working part-time. I decided to avoid discussing my work in front of her. But it's true, even though it's just a part-time job, I do have some spare time. Not wanting to be looked down upon, I discussed with my husband the idea of starting to sell the handmade jewelry I've always wanted to make. Hey, I've been making earrings and necklaces for myself. But after posting them on social media, I got more positive responses than expected. I'm thinking of starting to sell them. What do you think? That sounds great. You've always wanted to showcase your creations. I'll help out in any way I can, as long as it doesn't overwhelm you. Encouraged by my husband, I began selling my handmade items alongside my part-time job and housework. Once I started selling, it turned out to be more successful than anticipated, earning good reviews from buyers and keeping me increasingly busy. One day, while working from home, my mother-in-law approached me. "Tracy, what are you spreading out all over the place?" She approached me as I was laying out various jewelry parts and design sketches. "Oh, these? I'm just making some accessories." I hesitated to mention I was selling them because I didn't want to invite criticism. People who only work part-time sure seem to have a lot of free time. If you have time for that, why don't you make some dishes instead? "Oh, yeah," I muttered as she left after dropping her snide comment. Despite our initial agreement not to interfere with each other's work and housework, I ended up having to cook not just for myself but for her as well. I thought, why on earth does she come upstairs to our living space so casually? when we specifically arranged for a two-family setup to avoid this kind of thing? My frustration grew. The next day was the same. "Hey, Tracy, you must be free, right? Make my meal too." "You're slow," she called out casually. "Yes, I'll do that," I replied, beginning to prepare her meal as if it were the most natural task. I thought she could just make it herself, but I couldn't actually say that out loud. Recently, her behavior towards me had escalated, and it was starting to worry me. I intended to discuss it with my husband, but he was swamped at work and often came home late, leaving us little time to talk. Then one day, when I returned home after my part-time job, I found my mother-in-law in my room, looking at my computer without permission. "What? Why are you in my room? What's with the loud voice? It's the same house, so I can enter any room I want, can't I? That's troubling. I have personal things here. Please, don't enter my room without permission. Do you have something you don't want me to see?" "It's not like that, but..." "Like this," she said, holding up my laptop and showing me the history of my online sales. The fact that she went through my computer was chilling. "I didn't intend to hide it, but please don't go through my things without permission. To think you were moonlighting. I thought you were just slacking off at home. But here you are selling these trivial accessories. You really are a carefree daughter-in-law." Trivial. I put a lot of effort into my work, and I knew you would belittle it. Which is why I didn't tell you about my side business. To talk back to me, a mere maid. What nerve you have. Maid. Is that what you think of me? Of course. What else would a wife who doesn't bring in much income be but a maid? You should be grateful that I let you stay in my house as a maid. Her words were too harsh, leaving me speechless. How could she say such things? It was too much. But arguing with her was a waste of time when I could be finishing work for my customers who are waiting for their orders. With that in mind, I firmly said, "Please, don't ever enter my room again," and ushered her out, closing the door behind her. Orders kept coming in while I was dealing with this. I decided to focus on my work and not let her bother me. However, a certain action from her soon pushed my anger to its limits. One day, as usual, I was engrossed in making my handmade crafts. That morning, my mother-in-law had left the house saying, "I'm going out to lunch with the neighbors, so you take care of dinner. Make sure you don't slack off on the housework, maid," and, as usual, she dumped the responsibility of cooking and housekeeping on me. Understood. While I was irritated by her comments, I was relieved inside that she wouldn't be home today. I could work without feeling self-conscious. Sales have been good recently, and I've been expanding my work, even doing some drawing. It's been busy, but I really enjoy my work and find it rewarding. And my husband Peter has been supportive. I thought to myself, let's work even harder. As I was drawing, I started feeling sleepy after several nights of continuous work. I can't create good work if I keep going like this, I thought. So I decided to take a break and drank some coffee in the living room. "Oh, I'm still sleepy even after the coffee," I thought as I lay down on the sofa. I don't know how much time had passed when suddenly something very hot splashed on my face and I jumped up, screaming, "Ouch!" When I opened my eyes, there was my mother-in-law, standing with her hands on her hips. It had only been 15 minutes since I had fallen asleep. "What are you doing?" I was furious. It was no wonder, as she had splashed hot water on my face. Sleeping in the middle of the day. What easygoing days you live. You useless woman. To her, it seems I'm just a woman being supported by my husband. She doesn't understand the struggles I've endured. And the vast amount of time I've put into making my work successful. Just 15 minutes. I had simply laid down to rest my eyes, and for that, she splashed me with hot water. I was just trying to take a break. How could you splash hot water on someone's face? What if you had burned me? Don't talk back. You are just a maid here. Didn't I tell you not to slack off on your chores? If you have a complaint, then leave this house. My mother-in-law wouldn't listen at all. Every day she would interrupt my work from home and make snide remarks. It's unreasonable to expect me to endure this lifestyle any longer. I've reached my limit. Understood. With pleasure. I'll leave, just as you wish, ma'am. I spoke in a flabbergasted tone, and she was stunned, saying, "What?" Ignoring her. I went back to my room and packed the bare minimum of my belongings. As I was leaving the house, I said, "Oh, and please explain everything to Peter. If you tell him what you've done to me, I think he'll be furious, huh? You seem very confident of being loved. Just a mere maid leaving the house, and he won't care, will he?" "Oh. Is that so? I'm looking forward to it," and I left the house. That day, I looked for a place to stay and managed to secure a bed at a hotel. Then I immediately called my husband. "I've decided to leave the house." My husband was quite startled by my sudden declaration. "What? What happened? Why so suddenly?" I could tell he was panicking even over the phone. "I was napping, and your mother splashed hot water on my face. Then she kicked me out of the house. I can't live with such a person anymore. My mom did that." "How terrible. Are you okay? Did you get burned?" my husband asked, genuinely concerned first and foremost. "I'm okay. Just a bit sore on my cheek and neck. I can't believe it. I won't forgive my mom, no matter that she's family. I'm coming to pick you up right now to talk." "Where are you?" My husband seemed very upset. Soon after, he came to pick me up. And after discussing it together, we decided not to return home that day, but to stay at the hotel and think things over. The next day. I've decided what to do next. Let's go home together. I'll talk to my mom. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. She went too far. There's no saving her now. Saying that, we decided to return home together. When we arrived, Peter got out of the car first and entered the house. "Oh, good morning, Peter. You didn't come home yesterday." I was worried. My mother-in-law greeted him, oblivious to everything. As I got out of the car and was about to enter the house, she scoffed. "Huh, you came back? Persistent, aren't you?" clearly displeased. Hearing her remark, Peter glared at her fiercely. "Mom. So, you've been harassing Tracy and making snide comments when I'm not around, haven't you? What are you talking about?" "I haven't done anything," she tried to deny it. "I know everything." "What did you do to Tracy yesterday?" Peter exploded. "What? It's her fault for slacking off as a maid and napping during the day. Right? Such a freeloader should be kicked out, shouldn't she? Maid. Tracy earns $30,000 a month. She's far more successful than I am." "Peter, you didn't have to say that." "What? $30,000? You must be joking." How can a woman who just makes trinkets and taps on a computer earn that much? Trinkets? That's rude. Just so you know, I've recently launched my own brand. And even received collaboration requests from famous celebrities, I bragged lightly. That's absurd. My mother-in-law collapsed, overwhelmed by the truth. Mom, Tracy has been perfectly managing both the household and her work amidst her busy schedule. And yet, this treatment. No matter that you're my mom, I can't forgive this anymore. There's a place you need to go. Saying this, he got her into the car. I also got in, and we drove to a certain destination. When we arrived, she gasped in disbelief. What? No way. It was the police station. As my mother-in-law stood there dumbfounded, he said, "You splashed Tracy with boiling water, right?" Her face and neck got burned, and she was told it would take a week to heal. We've got the medical report. You need to make amends. Indeed, since then, the pain in my cheek and neck hadn't subsided. And after visiting the hospital, it turned out I had sustained burns. After discussing it with Peter, we decided that this act could not go unpunished. It's too much, even for a mother-in-law. There's a risk to life if this happens again, so please stay out of our lives from now on. I'm so sorry. I never imagined it would come to this. I didn't know Tracy was working so hard at her job and at home. I'm really sorry. Please, withdraw the police report. Please." My mother-in-law was crying out and pleading. "No. It's already decided." With that, he pushed her into the police station. With the medical report in hand, she was given a real sentence. She was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison. After that, we decided to sell the house we had been living in. We couldn't risk her returning to it after getting out of prison. We also bought a new home for ourselves, as we had the financial means to do so. Unlike the previous time, where we considered my mother-in-law in the home layout. This time it was a home just for us. Of course, we didn't give her the new address. Our new home quickly became our favorite place. A year and a half later, after serving her sentence, my mother-in-law called Peter once. I was out of my mind. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to apologize. I was disillusioned by your actions back then because I cared about you, Mom. Please don't involve yourself with us anymore. Don't say that. I want to properly apologize to Tracy. Please, let me speak to her." Peter, about to hang up, said, "What are you saying? Do you realize what you did to Tracy?" "I know. That's why I want to apologize." "Then stay away from Tracy." I stopped him. "It's okay. I'll speak to her. It's been a while." "Oh. Tracy, I'm really sorry about what happened. I didn't understand you at all and did something terrible. I really regret it now." She seemed to be deeply remorseful. "It's okay. I've heard your apology, and you've made amends. I'm really, really, really sorry." She apologized repeatedly. After her release, without a home, she apparently lived modestly in public housing on her pension. But that's irrelevant to me now. Feeling there was nothing more to discuss, I handed the phone back to Peter. Then Peter said, "Please don't involve yourself with us anymore. Good luck." And with that, he hung up. "Looks like your mother got out." "Yeah, seems like it." "Aren't you going to see her?" "I'm okay now. She's your real mother, after all." "No, it's okay. We're going to be happy with our new baby, right?" He patted my belly. Yes, I was actually pregnant. 8 months along. The baby was stable, and my belly was noticeably larger. Yes. We have to protect this child no matter what. 2 months later, I gave birth safely to a beautiful baby girl. Despite the busy days filled with work, childcare, and household chores, we are living happily together with our precious little one.